So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. Today is Tuesday, April the 13th, 2021. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us. And we would love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. I have made a couple of additions this morning on our website while we're waiting on Michael to call in. There's now a new menu item up at the top where it says Buy Products and then About Jeanie and About Michael. There's also one now that says Catalog MP4s. And if you go to Buy Products, there's a link at the top of that page that will also direct you to the MP4 catalog. That's something new that we have going. We had someone who is supporting this work, and they have a paid Vimeo account, and he's open to freely storing our MP4s. So they're not downloadable, but you stream them from the Vimeo site. And so we have a new catalog. So those are like half price of buying the actual DVDs. And we've now added, I'm in the process. I still have a little bit of work to do on it, but the book on CD will be on there under the MP4s where you'll be able to purchase that and then stream it and listen to the book being read to you. So there's some changes being made. So like I said a couple days ago, let me know if there's any links that need to be corrected, and we appreciate you. And welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. And also the copy of the book on in the streaming is the latest version. It is not the same as the printed version. We have not printed a second version of the book, but we do have a reading of the second version of the book. And so I'm going to just jump right in and get the last page of the chapter we've been working on, Blockage of Truth, Chapter 9. If you have a copy of the book, we're on page 54. If you don't have, you can go to Amazon and you can go to eBay, and you usually find used copies on their either of those sites for sale. A few other places too, but they're the most common ones. And or you can go to our website and you can download a copy of the book free in any one of many languages. So they're all on the website. So we're talking to Richard about this idea of blockage of truth, and that when we block truth, what we do is we block the ability to heal the part of us that's most in need of healing. And as you clean up the blockage of truth issue, then the hidden parts of the mind that would tell you the truth all of a sudden become available. So we've been having this conversation with Richard, and how people can get, because of their blockages, get stuck in destructive behaviors and have no idea that that's what they're doing. And we offered the idea of, kind of flows from the scriptural idea of where your heart is, there will your treasure be also, and that our treasure, when we're in blockage of truth, is always blaming someone else. And people defend or blame someone else. No, you're the reason I'm doing this. You're the problem. And that's the stories people can come up to rationalize their protection of that treasure, their cherished ability to blame somebody else, and somebody else is the reason I'm leaving. I'm separating from you because of you. It's nothing to do with me. Well, so that's been our conversation. So I offered to Richard the thought, I've just challenged your treasure, Richard, your belief in victimhood and blame, and I invite you to notice that the next level of your defense mechanism is now in view. The need to protect yourself from feeling the pain of being responsible for your victimhood and blame thoughts, I suspect, is behind your holding your breath and your desire for drugs, the drugs of coffee and nicotine. Owning up to responsibility for what happens in your life is a healing action. And now what you need to forgive next is being felt. So if you recall earlier in the book, we're talking about this idea of blockage of truth, and Richard decides that he wants some coffee and he wants a cigarette, nicotine. And that is the next way of protecting his treasure, the next way of dissociating from the content he doesn't want to deal with. So how about letting go of the need for a cigarette and coffee for the next hour or so and see anything more comes up? And Richard responds, I've noticed that I tend to smoke more when I'm upset, but never understood why. I'll give it a try. Hold off smoking. Hold off the anesthetizing drugs. Feel fully your painful realities and engage in the process of true forgiveness, I suggested. That's where your healing waits for you. So when we can let go of the anesthetic, then we can start to feel. And, when we do an intensive, we do total fresh and raw food in that intensive. And one of the reasons is because when people eat the junk of the culture, the empty foods, the empty calories, the sugar, the caffeine, all the garbage that goes into food, then they start to eat real food. All of a sudden they feel, they're vital enough to feel, and they're not using those things as anesthetics. And when we become more vital, that's when we can access, which is hiding from us in our minds. And then the chapter finishes with the key thought, and the key thought, the bad news, you are the only problem in your life. The good news, you are the solution. And so that's our chapter on blockage of truth, and our next show we'll get into chapter 10, which is ancient wisdom. Again, if you want to download a free copy of the book from our website, you can do that at www.whyagain.org. And that will give you a link in Russian, Swedish. The Swedish link isn't there. We do have the book in Swedish, but the Swedish publisher wouldn't let us put it on our website as a freebie because they were afraid they'd lose money. But we have German, Dutch, Farsi, Spanish, Russian. So there's several different versions of the book available, English, of course, and you're welcome to go download it. And beyond that, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
No, on neither of those. We got quite a few listeners on the show, so someone presses one.
Okay, well, we were in a conversation with Celinda yesterday, and she was going to call in to complete that conversation. But perhaps she's not available as yet. So if you're out there in listener land, how can we support you? What's on your mind? We are in the middle of several projects. Jeanie, as she said, is working on the computer and rearranging catalog, and we are finishing off a couple of new worksheets. We're renovating the new Power Person worksheet that goes along with the Codependence Intensive, and on Saturday we did a fabulous 2-hour session with Miss Magda and Chuck, and it's so powerful we decided we'd put a link to that. If you go to yesterday's notes, there's a link to that video. We're going to make it available free for 2 weeks for anybody that listens to the show. If you want to give a listen to that, then you're welcome to go to yesterday's notes and pick up that link and give a listen. It just was really profound. And the communications, you hear what I think I said, the responsibility communication tool I've taught for 25 plus years. And it's been several years since I had to make any changes in that tool, or there have been any new insights. And Magda just had a whole series of things that she inspired. So I'm also working on renovating that worksheet or that set of instructions for the responsibility communication tools. And once that's complete, it'll be on the website as well. So we have lots on our plate, lots moving forward, and delighted to be here to be part of this conversation with you. If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you in our control panel and you dial into the show, call number is 563-999-3581. Then you'll be listening to the show. And as you listen to the show, if you have a question or a thought for us and you push 1, that puts a hand up in the phone queue and we can have a conversation. So what's on your mind? How can we support you? If you're not using the forgiveness, go ahead, Jeanie.
I was just going to say I scrolled down through the numbers, and Celinda's not on yet.
Okay, cool. If you're not using the forgiveness tool as yet, you're certainly welcome to go to our website. Again, it's www.whyagain.org. And in the upper left-hand corner of the page, you will see a link that says Start Here. If you click that link, it will start walking you through our 35-plus years of work with the first-century Aramaic forgiveness process. And it is not a complicated thing to do, but it is a detailed thing to do. There are a number of details to attend to. There are some brain cells to be built to make sense of it, and they are all there on the website. You can go from link to link to link and walk through samples of times when either Dr. Tim or Jeanie or myself have walked people through the wake-up sheet, step-by-step instructions, or at least 20 or more radio shows where we've done a complete worksheet with someone. So that's there and available to you as instructions. And each one of them, has a different bent to it. So each one of them has a different subtle twist and set of, way of building brain cells to understand more completely the forgiveness process. You can also go to the website and do the process right there on the website live. There are several different versions of the reality management worksheet process on the site. You can download any or all of them, and each one has, again, a slightly different twist. As I've tested out different ways of wording the process, some of those worksheets were different enough that we decided to just keep them, and we hear feedback from people that use different worksheets. They might use one for a day or a week and then switch to one of the others because each one has a slightly different approach to the process. So you can download those, print them on your printer, and do them in writing, or you can go to your app store in your phone and type in the words Heartland, one word, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. And as you type that in, what will appear in your app store is the world's first and only forgiveness tool, or forgiveness app, I should say. As far as I know, there's no other forgiveness app anywhere in the world, and you can download that free. It's a very private app. We purposely set it up so that as few permissions as possible are asked for. The only permission to use the app that's needed is, of course, for the app to be able to use the internet. Otherwise, if you complete a worksheet and you decide you want to print it, there is a printer link there that you can print a PDF, and it will, of course, ask for permission to store it on your drive. But other than that, we have no interest in your contacts or be able to dial your phone or use your camera, all those silly permissions that so many apps ask for. And as you choose to engage in the forgiveness process, you can do either one of two different worksheets that are there in the app, or there is also a children's game called the Drag-On Cling-On game. So all of those things are there, and we invite you to take advantage of them. And as you use them, hopefully questions will develop. And when they do, we're here to support you and answer those questions, or just if you need support in general in whatever work you're doing. We're here to hold the space. And we've got a whole community of folks who listen to the show regularly. We're in our 10th year. So there are people all over the globe who are here listening and joining and holding the space for you as well. So you've got support. And if in your process you have a question or a thought for us, you're listening to the show and you push 1, that will raise a hand up in the control panel. And Jeanie will know you want to talk to us, and we'll have a conversation. So what's on your mind? How can we support you? Anybody out there in listener land with a thought for us or a question for us? Well, I'm surprised that nobody has anything to say.
We have a hand up. We have a hand
good.
up.
Let's say hello.
area code 205. You're on the air.
Hello. This is my first time. Well, yesterday was the first time that I was introduced, programmed by Reverend Roma Carlisle. So
cool.
I'm not sure how
Welcome.
to go about doing it. Thank you. I've been following the YouTube tutorials since we spoke. And when I called her because I suffer from what is called electromagnetic field insensitive or
sensitive electromagnetic.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
electromagnetic hypersensitivity, and it's very rare. But I'm wondering, how have I created this in my life, and if I could get some insight from someone who might know a little bit more. I called her for prayer, and we knew that it was divine. She was waiting on a phone repair person and to connect her phone, and I was in distress and felt like I needed to talk to someone who was aware of this. Her name was on, and the ministry was on a web, or they have signatures that support people becoming more and more aware of this issue and the 5G. So that is my issue. I'm wondering if it's been because of extreme trauma over the last several years and the huge transition that I've had to go through. What could it possibly be that I am doing that's helping to create this thing that's going on within me?
Right.
So that I'm
okay, I hear you. Okay. Well, I think I understand your question, and, I don't know that anybody really knows what creates electromagnetic sensitivity. Everybody responds to electromagnetic fields, but what I would offer is that when one is stressed, there's a tendency to be more sensitive to anything and everything. You watch somebody who's in high stress, and some people can't even take a voice speaking loudly or television on in the background. They're just and the stress of that takes them over the edge. So the direction I would suggest that you go is to start looking at what are some of the things you're stressing yourself with in your life. What are some of the traumas that you've been through that maybe we can support you in lessening or weakening those traumas, and therefore becoming less sensitive to things like electromagnetics, and that may be your ticket out of that overload that happens when you're exposed to electromagnetics. So just tell me a little bit about what's going on in your life. Where have you been? When you said, is it years of trauma? So have you been through years of trauma? Is that what I understood you to say?
Yes, I've was married for 27 years and then kind of broadsided by a divorce that was that he was planning. And then because of relationships that he's had, he has a government job, and actually he's a part of the telecom industry and the government part of it. And I think that's how I was bombarded with a lot of the latest technologies all the time, and they say that's pretty much what triggers it. There was a lot of surveying, following. I had things on my car. It was just, he was very, I was just in a controlling relationship, and growing up the way that I did, you endured, you stayed. Religion taught me that that was my cross, and I had to bear it. So I stayed in it much too long. I know that I was supposed to have freed myself from it sometime before, but it just got to the point where he decided he no longer wanted it. We went through a terrible, terrible divorce, court, and everything. And my businesses were very successful, and that is how, through God's provision and of gifts and talent and relationships that we were able to achieve quite a bit. And then he had a keen business sense. But everything was taken away from me. I mean, well, I'd say everything, but it was a very unjust the way the proceedings took place. The judge just decided in his favor over and over and over again. So now we're at the point, because it started in 2015, so it's been just long drawn out. But I'm at the point now, we have equity in the house that he was supposed to share with me. Every time I file in court to try to get what the judge is actually allowed, it does not happen in my favor. I've had to be homeless. During the divorce proceedings, I stayed in a shelter. And then my children, suddenly there was just issues with them against me because of, divisiveness and, lies. And it was just very, very traumatic. And I don't understand what I did to create that. Probably years of people pleasing and finally recognizing who I am as a daughter of the Father, and recognizing that allowing him to do what I continued to allow him to do was not doing either of us any good. Neither of us could see the Father. If I was allowing him to be abusive, it was only contributing to him being validated in that.
Right.
And that's been the biggest part of the trauma, having to be uprooted out of my home, all of the negative, the lies and the manipulation of the courts. Him.
Sounds like it's been quite an ordeal.
It has been. It's been unreal, actually. But here recently, I've just found a place that I could move into, and apparently there's a lot of technology in the other apartments, and I'm bombarded with it again. I can hardly rest. There were some tips that Reverend Roma gave me that have really helped, and I've been looking at the YouTube tutorials on maybe it was a workshop that you did.
The forgiveness process.
Or something. Yes.
Right.
Yes. So I have not yet mastered it. I've downloaded the website, and I'm still learning the process.
Okay. Have you engaged in the reality management or forgiveness worksheet at all?
Yes, on the app I did.
Right. Okay. Well, that would be, the key starting point, because what happens is when we set a goal in our minds, like let's say, for instance, just as an example in this whole situation, a goal that I would suspect would be reasonable for you to have would be for your former to be fair with you. And as silly as it seems, in the Aramaic language, the word forgive is actually sabag, and it means to cancel. And the thing that creates the stress is the goal that we set, not the circumstance that we're in. And when I cancel a goal, it allows me to access the parts of my mind that are locked into stress and process that stress out. So in the case, just as an example of let's say if that were accurate for your husband to be fair, your former husband to be fair, then forgiveness would look like, and it sounds silly, but I cancel my need for my husband to be fair. And what happens is that as I cancel that and I drop into the part of my mind that holds my experiences around fairness, I get to start to process out the stressors there. And so just as an example, I would ask the question, if you look at, before you ever met or married your husband, were there any issues of fairness in your life, in your family system?
I know there were lots of unjust and unbalanced in the household. My mother, I was the first, and it was an out-of-wedlock marriage. And as I processed it through the years, I think that because of her relationship with the church and how the church operated under all of this religion and tradition and legalism, she felt like her becoming pregnant outside covenant marriage brought on guilt and shame and rejection.
Right.
So I know that manifested itself in the womb with me because she hid me for 7 months before anyone found out she was pregnant. And from the moment I was born, it's been about creating something that's worthy of being here. It's like she had to always make me look like I was acceptable, act as though I was acceptable, and perform. And I was always pushed before the church to be good or to do good. Even when I didn't accept it, got to the point where I was able to have a voice about how I felt about wearing dresses all the time, all the things that we had to do. She continued to make me do those, even though she didn't my other sisters. So I was the one that still had to go to church all the time and wear the clothes so that I looked like what they had defined as a Christian. And my sisters didn't have to do that. And it was, so there was a lot of imbalance in the household. And, she played a difference. And it led me to be the person where I continued on with that behavior by seeking approval, giving so much away of myself, of my finances. I was always doing. And
proving yourself worthy.
It was never, and to be accepted by my sisters, because of course growing up, they see that I'm being, treated differently by my mom and by my stepfather. I think they interpreted it as I deserved it. So they must treat me that way as well. And when you're children, I just assume that that's how you process things when you're watching adults.
Right.
And I believe that that continued, because I just, whenever I was rejected, I continued to just give more and more and more. And it was constant rejection and just my mom not being balanced and fair in how she treated my sisters and I.
Yeah. So one of the workshops we do is, you're right on track. And one of the workshops we do is called Codependence to Interdependence. And in that workshop, we introduce what we call a power person. And the power person is someone who was not functioning out of love, someone who had more power over your life than you did, and that you perceived the interaction with them as survival. And when that happens, what occurs is call on the energetic patterns of that power person and make them our own. And it tends to run our lives. And you'll notice that many of the words that you used to describe the dynamics with your mother, you also used to describe the dynamics with your former husband. And my offering would be that it was an energy pattern that was carried within your physiology into the marriage. And until we understand those patterns and work through them, they will tend to manifest. They'll tend to play out. And it sounds like they've played out perfectly in your rejection and more of the unfairness and such. So my offering would be that you've got what you just described to me as a whole lifetime of stressors that you've not resolved yet. And my guess, and this would just be a guess, would be that if you can reduce the stressors from that lifetime of carrying that load, and that's what the forgiveness process does, then I would suspect that you would find yourself less sensitive to the electromagnetic fields. It's kind of like, the old story of the straw that broke the camel's back. The camel could carry the load, and then it just took one more straw. And my offering would be that very likely this electromagnetic sensitivity is due to the fact that you're carrying such a load. It's kind of the straw that creates this level of stress or exacerbates this level of stress. So my offering would be that everything that you just spoke about with your sisters, with your mother, with the church, with your husband, that each of those situations would be a different forgiveness process, a different forgiveness wake-up sheet. And as you do those wake-up sheets, you'll reduce your overall stress. And this is just a theory on my part. It's not something I've directly worked with anybody who's electromagnetically sensitive, so I can't say 100%, but I strongly suspect that if you go back and work through this, what really sounds like a pretty heavy-duty lifetime of stress, as you let go of those stressors, you're going to find yourself less sensitive to that electromagnetic load that just kind of pushes you over the line. So my invitation would be that you really, perhaps when we finish the show, go to our archives and download the show and just listen to yourself describe each of the situations where there were goals that you would hold to be treated fairly, to be treated reasonably, and places where there was significant oppression. And as you go in and do your forgiveness work around those things, you'll reduce the stress load that you're carrying. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely, and I will do that. I have one more question, though. As
Please?
it relates, you started... Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
You started talking about letting go or finding the Aramaic of forgiveness when it came to my ex and having an expectation. Does that mean that I let go of what is rightfully, stop pursuing what's rightfully my fair portion? Okay.
No. What it means is that, let's say, for instance, objectively there's been great unfairness. And as a result of that unfairness, it's triggered into activity the old issues of unfairness and pain that you've carried most of your life. What it means is that you want to go in and heal the parts of your mind that carry pain and trauma around unfairness. And then you bring a mind that is connected to love rather than steeped in unfairness to the situation where you stand up for what is yours and you pursue what is yours. When you do that, well, it might look like, let's say, just an example, if I'm steeped my whole life, as you seem to be portraying, has been steeped in unfairness, I'm going to sit down at the phone book and I'm going to open it and I'm going to look for an attorney. And on an unconscious level, I'm going to be attracted to pick out an attorney that probably has issues of unfairness, and they're going to perfectly represent me and perpetuate the unfairness with me as I pursue what's rightfully mine. When I work through those issues of unfairness, when I let go of the pain and the trauma of what sounds like pretty much a whole lifetime of unfairness, when I let go of that, I'm going to sit down with the phone book, just as an example. I'm going to look for an attorney, and all of a sudden the attorney's name is going to jump out at me as someone who really lives in integrity and fairness and knows how to support me in producing that result and receiving what's rightfully mine. and they will have a whole different tack, a whole different approach to how to pursue the legal remedies for your situation. And with your support, having worked through the issues of unfairness and knowing, the only thing that you need to justify people being fair with you is to know that the Creator put the breath of life in you. That's all you need to know. And once you're clear on that and you've worked through those issues of unfairness, you'll be more empowered to speak in a way, to act in a way, to behave in a way that will produce just and fair behavior toward you. Whereas while I have unresolved issues around being treated justly and fairly, I'll tend to simply perpetuate being treated unjustly and unfairly. So you may totally, completely can't. In fact, when they go back to Yeshua, they asked him, how many times do we need to forgive? Is 7 times enough? And in Aramaic, he says to them, no, 77 times 70, which really means an infinite number of times till you're complete with that issue. When you get complete with that issue, you will be, rather than a house divided against yourself, in your head saying, what I want is fairness, but in your heart saying, well, I know what I always get is unfairness. Remember, he said a house divided against itself cannot stand. Because the more powerful part of our mind is the unconscious, that if I hold, I always get treated unfairly, I'm going to tend to act, behave, think, feel in a way that draws people to treat me unfairly. When I process through that, I go back to the same situation, the same courtroom, maybe the same judge, but now I stand as a space where I know who I am, I know that I deserve to be treated fairly, and I literally set up an energetic pattern of drawing fairness to me. And now all of a sudden, the world around me starts to reorganize itself, me, in being treated fairly. So while I cancel my goal to be treated fairly, once I process through the part of my mind that holds all the pain and trauma of unfairness that I've experienced in my life, once I've processed through that and removed that, then when I speak of fairness, I am consistent with myself. I consciously know that I deserve fairness, and my unconscious, my heart knows that I deserve fairness, and I will be far more likely to create it than I will than if I say in my head, I want fairness, but I know in my heart I never get treated fairly. Then I'm probably going to draw situations where I'll be treated unfairly. So I can, each time you cancel a goal, you can go back to that same situation, and you may reestablish that goal, but you bring a healed mind to that goal in regard to that situation rather than a pained and traumatized mind to that goal, and you create a different outcome. Does that make sense?
Also help, yes, it does. Will that also help eliminate the sense of unworthiness or that I deserve punishment? Because that's the other thing. Everything seems to have been blamed on, it's your fault, you deserve it.
Right.
You're being punished by God. You're being punished by life.
Yeah. So here's my offering. The Creator is love, period. It is a lie that there is punishment in love. Punishment never was sourced from the Creator, is not even in the capability of the Creator. That's humans who projected all that punishment in because of their own unresolved pain and trauma. So there is no punisher that created the universe. That's a fraud made up by non-humans, minds that were not functioning out of love, and they projected their own punishment into the Creator, their words about the Creator. But it's a fraud. And as I say, when you get to the point where on the deepest levels of your mind you recognize that the only thing you need to do to be worthy of experiencing yourself as love and to be treated fairly is to know that the Creator saw you as being fit to give the breath of life to. When you were given that gift, you were given worthiness. The rest is all a lie and needs to be forgiven. The rest is all just a pure, simple, fraudulent lie that men have made up and projected into their brain's image of God. The Creator is love, period. That's it. There's nothing else there. All the stories you've heard, and, go back to the writings, and what you hear are men projecting the content of their own minds into their image of God. The man who's the punisher sees God as a punisher. The man or the woman who freed themselves of punishment knows that God is love. That's all. It is the presence of our true, pure being. If you think back to the first time that you birthed your first newborn child, do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
If you go back to the moment where you first held, what's your firstborn's name?
Cody.
Cody. Imagine going back to the moment where you first held Cody as his mom. You first laid your eyes on him. He was put in your arms. If you tap into... It's a her? Okay, excuse me.
That's okay. And it was pure love.
If you tap into her, that's it, right? Now, the question I ask you, was Cody loving you or was Cody love?
Cody was love.
In that moment. Yeah. So guess what's true about you? Guess what's true about you? Same thing.
I'm love.
Same thing. That's it. All the rest of it's a fraud perpetrated by the insane world. And the insane world is a world that's disconnected from love. And it's time for us to forgive all of those disconnects and reestablish our connection to love. When we do, then what happens is we tend to draw out of others their connection to love. And what that produces...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was about to ask, when I read scripture and I read, especially in the Torah and the Exodus and how the Israelites, they, turn their back on God and his anger. When I read scripture and I read anything negative, I always sense that it is a message for me, that I have angered God, because that's what I've heard. I want to be free from all of that.
Right. So here's my offering. You could never anger God because there is no anger in God. That's men's projection. However, when you listen with those brain cells, what you're really telling us is that you do have anger. And it's time for your anger to be forgiven. And anger is nothing other than a drug we use to cover pain. And so as you free yourself from that anger, you'll tend to have a direct experience of feeling intensely that pain. And as you continue your journey and do your work, you free yourself of that pain and of that anger, and you come to the realization that not only is Cody love, but you are the same. And out of that, you now come into this world, into your form, we call a body, as the presence of love. And as the presence of love, you will draw and create a totally, completely different experience of life. And the work that needs to be done is the forgiveness of that anger and the underlying pain, the underlying dynamics of hostility and fear. And as you free yourself from those false beliefs about yourself, you show up in your world as who you are, as a presence of love. And that's what we're designed to do. Those who wrote those scriptures and describe God as angry, go back and look and you'll find that they were angry men. And of course, they didn't want to own their anger because I'm perfect. And so who had the anger? Oh, God had the anger. It's just a lie. It's just ignorance, not knowing that what they were doing was projecting into love what they had not resolved in their own minds. And, you know, there's an interesting passage in the scriptures where a number of disciples are with Yeshua, and they say to Yeshua, in essence, what they ask is, what do I need to do to please God? And Yeshua responds to them with an Aramaic idiom, and I'll tell you what that idiom is in just a moment. And literally half of his disciples say, too hard a saying, and they leave, and they never come back.
Yes.
Now, what did he say to them that they had to do in order to please God? What he said to them is, you've got to eat my body and drink my blood. Now, in today's terms, in our Greek religious belief systems, and Yeshua would sit in these Greek churches and say, that's all Greek to me. In their translation, eat my body and drink my blood means you got to take communion. Well, what's so hard a saying about being told to take communion? That's pretty simple. There's nothing hard about that. But
take your what?
They didn't his words, his instructions, and they said, what do I need to do to please God were, eat my body and drink my blood. And, of course, that would be take communion in today's culture, in the religious world. But actually, eat my body and drink my blood is an idiom. And you can't translate an idiom. You've just got to know what the idiom means. So if I say to you, oh, I think your friend over there is really cool, would you tell them that? And you turn to them and say, Michael thinks you've got a low body temperature. You translated my words properly, but you didn't understand my idiom, therefore you didn't translate what I wanted to communicate, that they're really cool. And so eat my body and drink my blood is not a statement about communion. What that means in Yeshua's Aramaic native tongue, which the Greeks did not understand, is it means that you're going to have to fully integrate everything Yeshua is saying to them. You're going to have to fully integrate everything that I know about our relationship with our Father, who is love, whose good pleasure it is to give us the kingdom. You're going to have to know everything that I know about it and put that into practice. In other words, you're going to have to give up your hate, your fear, your pain, your trauma, your drama, and tap back into yourself as the presence of love. And half of his audience said, that's too hard a saying, because they didn't understand what he meant. He, in essence, was saying, you're going to have to do your work. And most people aren't interested in doing their work. They want just an easy theology, just call on Jesus' name, and then everything's going to be taken care of. Well, you can tell the fraud of that. Just go around and look at the people who are calling on his name and see if everything's okay in their lives. It's not so okay. There's work to be done. And the primary work is the work of forgiveness, would be my offering. Does that fit? Does that make sense for you?
Absolutely, it does.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Then we're here to support you, digging out those worksheets, digging in, and literally going through your whole life. Again, everything that you shared with us, from mom to the church to your siblings to your former, and start to work through all of the fear, all of the anger, all of the anguish of being treated unfairly. And as you freed yourself from that, as you've accessed that has created a house divided against itself within you, then you'll come back to your life as who you are, as the presence of love, and you're going to see different outcomes in every arena. I suspect a different outcome in terms of your interaction with your former, and there's going to be less stress in your physiology, which I offer would very likely make you less sensitive to the electromagnetic interference that's just kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back that's pushing you over the edge.
That would be miraculous. Would love that.
Well, I'm here to support you having a miracle.
I'm
and as
ready.
you dig out those worksheets and you put your pen to paper and work with them, anywhere that questions come, anywhere we can support you, that's what we're here to do.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I'll get started.
Well, absolutely honored and delighted. And
the honor is mine. Thank you so much. It's such a gift and an answer to prayer.
Well, delighted to be here to support you, and feel free to call any day, every day, as you need support, and let's have a conversation and let's get you through this.
Great.
There are going to be some tough hurdles. There are going to be some tough hurdles for you to go over. You start touching into some of the pain of those power person messages from your mom. And there'll be some very painful moments that you're going to remember and you're going to get to process through, but that's where you do call on the active presence of love. Remember, Yeshua says, I am always with you. And the active presence of his love is available to you 24/7, 365 to support you in the process, and we're available to you as well.
That sounds great. Thank you, Dr. Ryce.
All right, dear heart. Blessings. Look forward to hearing from you.
Blessings to you as well.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
We do have another caller.
All right.
And
all right, Miss Jeanie, let's go for it.
Cecilia 602, and I have answered your email.
Cool. Hey there, young lady.
Hey, hi, you guys.
No, you can go ahead and ask Michael about it.
Okay. Hi, Jeanie. Thanks. Okay, so I'm doing my work. I'm doing a lot of worksheets. I'm doing EFT that Tim teaches. I don't know if you teach it too.
Good.
But anyway.
Awesome.
I'm shifting. I know I'm shifting, but I'm also feeling
you sound a little shaky.
By, huh?
I say you sound a little shaky.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I need more help than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, because you mentioned Bruce Lipton, for some reason he came up on my YouTube video. Maybe I typed him in, I don't know. Because my nervous system feels like it's even hyped up even more. And,
I got it.
And I'm thinking, I don't know if thinking is the word because Bruce Lipton talks about that. I feel I'm wanting your feedback. I think it's because I'm doing so much work. It's all coming up and it's all coming out.
Right.
Okay, that's my guess. That's my guess.
Yep.
That's a guess.
That's the healing process.
But it seems to be 24/7, like for weeks now. It's never usually 24/7. It's usually.
Yep.
It's usually like it's every 17 months.
Uh-huh.
So, and I'm numbed down to it, or I press it down and I don't want it to come out, but it's kind of interfering with things that I'm working on, which are my passions, and it's making it very difficult for me to continue to work on those with a voice coach, because the first thing that shuts down is my jaw and my voice and everything.
Right. It sounds like you're in the middle of a healing crisis.
And you say that they have length of times that you can give me an idea. Give me an idea.
Well, you can go back and read the book of Job, and the book of Job is basically the story of one man's healing crisis. And there's a point in his process, and you can tell how intense the energy flow has become for him, because he makes a request of God. He says, God, I need an intermission. And you can get some sense of how intense his process is, because he says, please, just give me time to swallow my saliva. That's all he wants, is just intermission for that. And to me, that's an indicator of how intense the process can become. And having, done this work and developed this work over the last 50 years, I can testify to the fact that it oftentimes becomes that intense. And it's a blessing to become that intense because you're in high-speed, fast-forward process. You can work through things in this state in minutes that otherwise might take years. But it's intense, and that's just, part of the process. I'll get Jeanie's phone number from you, or actually I think I've got it, and I'll send you a link to a couple of shows where there was another naturopath who's a friend of mine who called in to get some information on healing crisis and what it looks like. So we've got a compilation of things with that, and I'll send you those links, and you can give them a listen.
I actually read
and I
that.
think
If it's on your website, I did read that when I started doing the worksheets weeks and weeks ago.
Right.
If it's on your website, I did read. I had to read it. I had to find out that I'm not going backwards. I'm going forwards.
Right. That's what
I'm
you're
saying.
doing,
You can still send it. Maybe I don't have them all.
Well, I'll send the link to you. It's a conversation. It's over an hour long, so that whole thing.
Oh no,
is
I
not
didn't see
written.
that.
There's some details about healing crisis on the website, but this will just give you more insight, and I think allow you to perhaps just soften yourself a little bit, take a deeper breath, and just let yourself be in the process. Stand in willingness and let yourself be in the process, because when you get to enough willingness and willingness opens the field, the movement of energy can get pretty high speed.
I looked in the mirror today.
It's a wonderful place to be.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. I mean, because you're saying no, but I know it on a deep level. I've known you long enough to know this is a good thing, but I wasn't willing before. And I usually look. You have this exercise if you have body issues to look in the mirror and with light and love and coming from my eyes. This morning, I actually said, "Okay, God, I am so ready to be done with these programs, all of them. I'm so done with them. And I have had miracles in my life where when I'm done with something or something's not working, the next morning I wake up and my whole life is different. Okay, and it doesn't last.
Right.
Okay, but but I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm trying to look in the mirror every day, going, I love you, but I just feel like I'm not there. Literally this morning, I knew I was there. I knew
nice.
The person saying, I love you, you are precious. You are my priority in my life. I know that I meant it.
Sweet.
And I really feel that I mean it. Now, it gets me to what I emailed Jeanie, is Bruce Lipton talks about these energy psychologies, which is what EFT is, EMDR. I've done all those, and I'm still doing EFT because Tim suggested it would be very helpful, and
right.
I gave up my negative programming that said, no, it won't help. So when I heard a video of Bruce Lipton, he said that the best one to do is Psych K. And it takes 10 minutes and your programs are done. So I just want to say to you, if that's true, I was signed up. But I would prefer, if it's true, to work with you and Jeanie, or either or.
Well, we present Bruce's work because he's doing some awesome stuff. And the place where he and I diverge, and I believe this goes into the Psych K arena, though I haven't worked there, is where he wants to do hypnosis to work things through. And my offering is that we don't need to be hypnotized. What we need to do is be awakened. And the awakening work is what's more important, and my take is that's forgiveness. That's why that's the focus of my world.
Your take is forgiveness. Is that what? Yes.
Yes.
I agree 100%.
That's the best tool I've found.
Can you or Jeanie help me?
I've been trained in hypnosis.
Oh, you have been?
I've been trained in hypnosis, used it decades ago, and decided, no, We need to be not putting people into trances, but, you know, when the master said transcend, they were saying put an end to the state of trance. Get out of the trance, not into a trance. Take your power back, develop the skills, not give the power to somebody else to hypnotize you and fix you, because ultimately we have to take the power back ourselves. So that's my offering.
And I'm going to agree with you, and I'm glad I called because I had conflicting mind energy. And what I want to know is, can you guys assist me in digging deeper with my worksheets if I do one-on-one with you?
I don't do any one-on work. I don't do any one-on work anymore, and the show's going to cut us off. But Jeanie does, so you can set up to do some session work with her, and she's fabulous at it. And the show's going to cut us off in just a second. More questions, get back to us. And in the meantime, everybody, have the best year yet of your eternal life. Awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.